All right, so in the wake of Joe Biden's abysmal and intentional failure to pass the federal $15 minimum wage, workers across the United States are having to go out and take the fight directly to their corporations and management themselves. And so as part of this, McDonald's, which has been waging the fight for 15 for literally years now, is starting to go on strike. So workers across the United States and multiple cities working for McDonald's are going on strike. So I wanted to bring this to you guys, give you a little bit more information on it, and remind you not to cross the picket line as this is going on, to stand in solidarity with the workers who are fighting for living wages and a union. And we're going to start off here with a Bernie Sanders hype video. His team is usually pretty good at making these, so let's just go ahead and get a little bit more context around the situation.
McDonald's workers will strike and rally in 15 cities today across the nation,
demanding a minimum wage of $15 an hour.
Strike is happening a day before the company's annual shareholder meeting.
Last year, McDonald's had a net income of $4.7 billion.
Workers say a $15 an hour wage would solve a nationwide hiring crunch. They've been fighting for the increase for several years now.
We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. People should not have to work for starvation wages. I have been on the picket lines all over this country with fast food workers and others who say we're not making it on $8 or $9 an hour. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Today we say as loudly and clearly as we can to McDonald's, pay your workers a living wage and negotiate with a union.
Right, so solid hype video there. I mean, obviously Bernie Sanders is 100% right, and all of this, if minimum wage had kept pace simply with productivity and inflation since it was at its peak for workers and their purchasing power within the economy, it would be upwards of $22, $23, $24 an hour right now. So even asking for a $15 minimum wage, especially from a billion-dollar profitable corporation like McDonald's, is the very bare minimum. I mean, literally the bare minimum that people could possibly be asking for. We know the statistics on the current minimum wage that we have here in the United States. It hasn't been raised in years. We've had the longest gap in it being raised right now. And so it's long overdue. And even like I said, Joe Biden's plan to raise it to $15 by 2025, which he did not successfully pass, is really just an embarrassing compromise, if you can even call it that. It's really not a compromise. And so it's just a reminder that unions and workers collectively getting together and acting as a unified force is the best, most direct way to increase their wages and get better benefits for them and their co-workers. So this is just a reminder. Unions are extremely important. We still have the PRO Act, which is sort of working its way through, and we'll see what the feasibility of that is coming forward, because I think that could really dramatically change the landscape of the American labor movement. So we have that in the woodworks. But just for McDonald's specifically, this is what they recently did to try to taper down the hype and excitement around this general strike. So they basically raised the wages to about $15 an hour for management at the ones that they specifically oversee. But because of their franchisee model, they don't actually directly control the wages of a vast majority of their workers. But that's not an excuse to not enforce policies that would require franchisees to raise wages to a certain level. So this is what they did to try to, taper the excitement around this general strike down and try to make workers, take their foot off the pedal. But they absolutely should not. This is obviously an embarrassing thing that McDonald's is doing here. So they needed across the board. A billion-dollar profitable corporation like McDonald's can't afford it. And how do I know that McDonald's can afford it? Well, they literally came out and openly said this while Joe Biden was pretending to fight for the $15 minimum wage. McDonald's other CEOs tell investors $15 minimum wage won't hurt business. So listen, on top of all of that, okay, so the $15 minimum wage, McDonald's themselves, they've admitted it openly that it would not hurt their bottom line. Of course, people are going to troll out these same, tired arguments of, oh, the price of a Big Mac is going to go up. No, the fuck it's not. You can go and look at all the other countries around the world in which McDonald's operates. And yes, many of them pay their workers substantially higher than what even a $15 minimum wage is the equivalent to. And believe it or not, the price of a Big Mac is still the same fucking price, because that's a ridiculous argument that they put out there to protect the payouts of their executives and their CEOs and their shareholders that are actually making a huge proportion of this profit. And so, workers coming together, acting in solidarity, this is exactly what we need to see more of in the United States. It's why I always cover these strikes, at least when I see them. because I think it's important to show solidarity with all of these workers who are doing this. We need more unions in this country. We need more workers going out and doing general strikes like this, and even showing solidarity across industry boundaries, right? You know, so not just food workers, but service workers and hospitality workers, and go down the list. I mean, we need more movements like this in order to build a broader coalition to challenge the capital ownership class in this country. Unions and collective worker action is the most direct way to do that. And so we got to support these things. Don't cross the picket line again. And yeah, all solidarity to the workers who are going on strike across the United States.